Well, good morning, everyone. How are you doing this fabulous Saturday morning? It is, as always, a great pleasure to have you here. So, welcome. If this is your first time catching me live here on the broadcast, great to have you here. Thank you so much. My name is Renee Harden. I am an editor, I'm a writer, I'm an educator, a writing coach. I love to help people tell their stories. And I do this every Saturday morning. We kick back with a cup of coffee. We catch up on the week. We talk about the week that was. And boy, we have started off the first week of March. It is nearing spring. We're still in wintertime, but it is nearing spring. I'm so excited to have you here this morning. So if you are tuning in live, make sure to pop in the comments and say good morning. Good morning, Savannah. How are you doing, my dear? Hello, Bear. Good to see you. Good morning. And Stephanie, folks on YouTube watching live, thank you so much for being here. Good morning. It is great to see you. Happy Saturday. So I hope you have a mug. Today's featured coffee mug is my Water Lilies mug. And this comes from Monet's Garden, right? Let me show you there the hand. You can see that there on the handle. But I had a student, a former student, who actually went to Rouen, France, and got to see Monet's Gardens live with the water lilies, the place that inspired so much of Monet's artwork. So as we are inspired to do some fun things now that the temperatures are getting warmer, a lot of people are starting to get their gardens ready. You kind of have to be careful because we're still in that time frame where we could have a pop of cold weather. Oh yes, I mean Texas learned that lesson a couple of weeks ago, where we had a spot of cold weather that lasted a week. We had single-digit temperatures, and so now Texas, being Texas, is still in the news because we have lifted our mask mandate. Now, there are a lot of businesses here in Texas, restaurants and other businesses who still don't feel quite ready to remove masks and to not take precautions. We only have about 7% of the state of Texas vaccinated. And as vaccines are coming out, I hope you are possibly getting in line for that. Maybe you are thinking about that. Hopefully, if you are a teacher, educators who are trying to get vaccinated first, since now we're starting to have more vaccines available. President Biden has done his job of trying to get and focus on getting the vaccines produced, getting more vaccines manufactured so that we can get more of the population vaccinated, and hopefully by the summer have a majority of our country vaccinated. It's so important. So as we are inspired, there's lots of stories to catch up on for this week. So guys, as we talked last weekend, and you remember your Hawaiian word of the day, kaukupulau meant leaf sprouting, because there isn't really a word for the season of springtime, because as I mentioned before, there is really no spring season in Hawaii. And if you've been watching the broadcast for a while, you know I am a Hawaiian girl living here in Texas. I like to share a little bit of my Hawaiian culture with you. So we are going to talk about this week's Hawaiian words of the week, because there are more than one word of the week. We're going to talk about, we usually talk about Hawaiian words of the week, but today I have more than one word to share with you, because as I said, in the Hawaiian culture, we don't have a word that designates springtime. We have the season where the leaves are sprouting. We have the season where the leaves are falling. Then we have the rainy season and the hot season. Those are the seasons in Hawaii, because their climate, their temperature is different because of the geographical location of where Hawaii is located. Good morning, Teresa. How are you doing, my dear? Good to see you here. So as I share this week's word of the week, we have several of them. Now, the first one I'm going to share with you, of course, because we're in a new month. We've started a new month I don't know if you saw my new music background video intro to our live stream show. But I like to change them up as we come out of wintertime and come into springtime. And I want to give a huge shout out to my daughter, Savannah, who handles a lot of my graphic work and a lot of the things that you see here on the show. Wouldn't be able to do all these great things without her input and her help. So she likes to dabble in doing graphics for my social media. So something that she is working on studying, and I'm so excited about that. So she created a wonderful little intro video for my springtime broadcast because this is the first one of the month of March. So how do we say the month or the name, the month of March in Hawaiian? Well, that word is malaki, not to be confused with malarkey, because that's different and it has an R in it, but malaki. Malaki is the Hawaiian word for the month of March. But as we know, the word March also is different from the name of the month of March. So in the Hawaiian language, we have a couple of words that indicate the action. So the action to march, okay, that's nawe. Nawe is the action to march. Savannah's talented. You've seen her stuff. Listen, she's doing a great job. I'm really proud of her. She is going to be studying graphic design and illustration. And so I'm really excited how she's developed her artwork. You can follow her on Instagram at Illustrating Sav, S-A-V, Illustrating Sav, and check out her artwork. She's done some commissions for portraits, different photos and different kinds of things for friends and logos. So she's kind of working on that and building her portfolio, and I'm super excited. Yeah, you're doing a great job, Savannah. So I'm really excited about all the work she is sharing with everyone. So again, our words, our Hawaiian words for this week, we have malaki, the month of March, right? Then we have nawe, nawe, which is the action to march. So if you are, say, we have the military marching out to war, it's nawe kawa, which is marching out to war. Then another word, another phrase that is used has to do with the music that is played during, military marches. And so that is mele paikau. Mele meaning song and paikau meaning marching music, right? So these are different words that are all in the Hawaiian language that mean the differing variations of the word march. So there you have it. There is your Hawaiian words of the week lesson. So let's catch up on the week that was. We had a lot going on this week, and I don't know about you, but March 1st, the first day of March, started on a Monday. I don't know about you, but when new months start on a Monday, I don't know if you feel ready to tackle it. Like I was, okay, March 1st, it's going to be a Monday. Whoo, my Monday was a day, let me tell you. It was a Monday of all Mondays. I spent a lot. First of all, I like to try to use my Mondays to catch up on all things admin for business. So I had lots of emails to answer, lots of emails to return that had documents attached. And again, if you haven't started getting ready for tax season, a lot of folks that are self-employed, we're getting ready for tax season. And I had lots of documents that I had to send to my accountant. And I had some documents that I had to send to people who were handling financial things for me with varying accounts, my late husband's estate, those kinds of things. And so I spent the day scanning and sending documents. Now, it was really fun when my printer went offline and wouldn't connect. I had to, and then it was really fun to get the phone out and have to scan something and then send it to my computer so I could send it up. Oh, it was a Monday. Have you ever had Mondays like that? I definitely had a Monday like that. Good morning, Carol. How you doing? Yep. We've got coffee. Definitely have coffee, girlfriend. Always time for coffee. So Monday, it was crazy. And I was also looking at the Golden Globe winners because of course the Golden Globes happened last Sunday, and they're a pretty good indicator of the movies that are going to be and TV that are going to be considered possibly for the Oscars. Now, the movies are considered for the Oscars, not the television, but the Golden Globes is really great to see what kind of shows. And because now that we have so many streaming services, we also have great television series and movies that are coming out on Netflix and on and Amazon Prime and Hulu. We've got so many great outlets to consume content like this, to consume streaming content. So I was really surprised. There, I mentioned last weekend we had a great friend of ours who helped co-produce the trial of the Chicago Seven, and while it was not a winner of any of the awards, however, Sacha Baron Cohen won for his performance in the Borat movie, the new Borat movie, which I've not seen yet. And it won over his movie won over Hamilton. I was really surprised at that. So it makes me want to watch it to see why was this movie in comedy and musical. I think they should, first of all, I think they should have the musicals and the comedies in separate category, but they have best in musical or comedy, and the Borat movie won, and so Sacha Baron Cohen won for his performance. But if you haven't seen him in the trial of the Chicago Seven, we've normally come to know Sacha Baron Cohen from his comedy roles. But you really need to watch him in the trial of the Chicago Seven because he portrays Abby Hoffman. And when he's interviewed, first of all, Sacha Baron Cohen is an English actor. So when you see him in interviews and you hear him with his British accent, you forget, wow, to see these actors have to take on American accents and perform is really impressive. So March 1st, you started working in the office again, started month end close, still working on that. Yeah. So Teresa, you went back to work. So see, Teresa lives here in Plano and she's in Texas where they've lifted the mandate. But of course, at her job, they required their employees to still stay masked. She said your printer scanner went offline when you were working at home. Dropbox became your best friend, found that you could do multi-page documents and the email downloading was smooth. Yes. So my glitch didn't last long, but I just scanned all the documents on my printer and then it wouldn't connect. So it was kind of nerve-wracking. So there are wonderful, great apps that we can use now to help us navigate those issues. So that's what I was doing on Monday. So then Tuesday was another kerfluffle day here in the United States because it was Read Across America Day. And March 2nd is usually tied to Dr. Seuss's birthday because his birthday was March 2nd. Well, there was a huge kerfluffle all about some books, and the publisher who is in charge of handling the estates and handling the licensing and the publication of Dr. Seuss books decided, and this was decided a while back, they've been kind of going through this. And so Dr. Seuss books there's 6 titles that are going to stop being published due to the content in them that comes off a little bad. There's been so many Asian American people recently who have been attacked by people, attacked simply because they're Asian, because of how the coronavirus was referred to as the China flu or the China virus. And so there have been a lot of Asian American people who have been under attack due to some of the portrayals of them, right? And so some of the Dr. Seuss books have imagery in them that the family and the publisher of Dr. Seuss's books decided that these would probably not be appropriate for very young children. So they decided to pull their own titles. Publishers can do that. It wasn't the government telling them to do that. It was the fact that they decided to pull some of those titles. So I did some research on the titles. So they're stopped being published because of racist and insensitive imagery. These books portray people in ways that are hurtful and wrong. Ceasing sales of these books is only part of our commitment and our broader plan to ensure that Dr. Seuss's catalog represents and supports all communities and families. Now, there's been a lot of pushback, a lot of people, and now if you go on Amazon and try to buy Dr. Seuss books, they're costing $1,000 or more. I mean, people are starting to scramble to buy Dr. Seuss book. There's still, Cat in the Hat is still there. All the books that we, One Fish, Two Fish, they're all there. You feel like that was totally fair and very self-aware of them to do. Well, I'm going to show you a book you probably haven't seen by Dr. Seuss. And when I taught literature and I studied World War II, I talked about how what is considered propaganda, right? When we got into World War II, we talked about how, cartoons and art and books and things that were being published during the time of war and how that would influence people in their thoughts. So if you're really interested in learning more about Theodore Geisel, who was Dr. Seuss, okay? So here's a book. It's called Dr. Seuss Goes to War. Dr. Seuss Goes to War, okay? This is the World War II editorial cartoons of Theodore Seuss Geisel. And I'm just going to show you some pictures to see where some of these characters that you would see normally in Dr. Seuss books might look a little different in other books. So do you see the picture of the Nazi sign on the tray? Relax, Sam. I assure you the express turns right off here. You see what it says, America first. And then here's this one. It says, spreading the lovely Gables stuff. All right. Okay. And so for adults who are able to process and understand what was being communicated through these cartoons is one thing. Young children who have come to know Dr. Seuss's characters that has a lot to do with how they see people. So for example, let me show you how some of those are presented. Okay. So here's one. Don't let them carve those faces on our mountains. And you notice the picture, it says you buy United States savings bond and stamps. There's Hitler, and then there's the Japanese people. You see how the Japanese people are portrayed? And so, now you have to read this book to understand the context of what this was. So before he was Dr. Seuss, he was a cartoonist during World War II. Okay. And so what's interesting is you see a lot of these characters that you would think would be in the Dr. Seuss books, right? And see, it's very, very different. So, Teresa, you're right. Being aware of the climate change in society from when these books were originally written and now, and taking action to make positive change is a positive thing. Exactly. So, and that's why this book is really great, because it goes into his work as a cartoonist during World War II. Not for young children. Okay, so the fact that they did this, the fact that they decided that some of these books might have pictures of Asians and African American people portrayed badly, they don't want to help the conversation of, fomenting any kind of support for racist talk, or even helping children delineate, because when children are born, they're not born with racist tendencies. They learn those. They learn seeing other people as different, and instead of being taught that they are just people from a different culture, sometimes they're encouraged to dislike them simply because of the way they look. And we're having a lot of problems, like I said before, with Asian American people being attacked. I mean, there's been a story in the news of the gentleman who was attacked in his face. He was cut across his face from one side to the other and left. And some people didn't even want to help him because they were afraid they were going to get attacked too. So anything that we can do to help stop some of that behavior, right? Especially when there are books being published, we want our stories to help inspire people, not to incite them to do harmful things. So, and so it was not the government that did it. It was the publisher. And the publisher has the right to decide not to publish works that they deem, possibly now, many years later, as hurtful to others. So if you feel the need to go out there and rush and grab all the Dr. Seuss books, go ahead. If you have Dr. Seuss books, they're not coming for your Dr. Seuss books. They are simply not going to publish those 6 titles. And when I looked at the titles, I thought, I think I had those, but I don't, the popular ones, those are the ones I have, but, and to think I saw it on Mulberry Street, If I Ran the Zoo, McElligot's Pool, On Beyond Zebra, Scrambled Egg Super, and The Cat's Quizzer. I don't know that those were even very commonly read titles, but in going back through it, and they had panels of experts and different kinds of educators, and there was a panel of people. This was not a knee-jerk reaction. There was a lot of research put into this, and they decided that these titles probably no longer needed to be published, right? So the publisher has the right to do that. So anyway, that was Tuesday. Then we move on to Wednesday, when they were talking about the vaccine. And let me tell you, I was excited to see Dolly Parton get her vaccine. Did you see that? Did you see the story that came out about her getting her vaccine at Vanderbilt? And I loved how she even did her song, vaccine, 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 vaccine. Please don't hesitate to get your shot. And she was so cute. But she did that because Dolly donated $1 million to the Vanderbilt Research Center that was part of the Moderna COVID vaccination. And so Dolly, so the Moderna vaccine is 94.5% effective against the virus. And when people found out, oh my goodness, Facebook and Twitter flooded with people just thanking Dolly. Now, if Dolly thought this was a hoax, do you think she would give $1 million to Vanderbilt? So you got to see her, and the doctor giving her a shot was Dr. Najee Amunrad, who has been her friend for a long time. And I've spoken before in previous broadcasts that Dr. Abumrad and Dolly have a special friendship because he treated her at Vanderbilt Hospital when she had her car accident in 2013. And from that friendship, she has become a benefactor to Vanderbilt's Research Center. And so, Dolly Parton was one of the major funders for Moderna's coronavirus vaccine, which has proved to be nearly 95% effective in early data. Why are we not discussing the fact that the vaccine with good news this morning was partly funded by Dolly? So a preliminary report by the New England Journal of Medicine on the Moderna vaccine credits Parton and others for donations to the Vanderbilt University Medical Center. She says, my longtime friend, Dr. Najee Abumrad, who's been involved in research at Vanderbilt for many years, informed me that they were making some exciting advancements towards research for the coronavirus, which is what she tweeted. And she was also encouraging fans to make donations to help encourage the vaccine research. Well, without a doubt in my mind, her funding made the research towards the vaccine go 10 times faster than it would be without it, Dr. Abumrad told the Washington Post. So the Vanderbilt Vaccine Center is researching synthetic antibodies that could potentially treat and prevent the virus, and the Moderna vaccine was made possible by research at Vanderbilt, Emory University, and others. So This is not the first time that Dolly has been such an amazing benefactor. In 1995, Dolly launched and founded the Imagination Library to give away books to help boost literacy among children. And so the initiative has mailed more than 133 million free books to children. Her My People Fund gave $9 million to people who lost their homes in the fires that took place in Gatlinburg. Do you remember the horrific fires in 2016 that happened in Gatlinburg? So your public library is not censoring the controversial books. They are leaving it up to the parents. That's great. That's great, Sherry. And yes, we do need to leave it up to the parents. However, the publisher of the books decided to do that. You have always loved Dolly. She's been so giving and compassionate and true to her very core. She's always been so honest and transparent about everything. You've seen that all your life because you're a Southern country girl who grew up on gospel, country, and bluegrass music. Yes. So when she was interviewed on BBC's The One Show, Dolly said she was so excited to hear about the news about the Moderna vaccine that she felt so proud to have been a part of the little, she calls it little seed money, that will hopefully grow into something great and help heal the world. She said she just wanted it to do good so that we could find a cure. And I love that because, again, Dolly is trying to do her part to help fund it. And again, she is really good friends with Dr. Abu Murad. And if you've not ever heard Dolly's or heard the podcast, let me see if I can find it here. Here we go. I'll share this with you guys so you can see it. But if you've not had a chance to listen to Dolly Parton's America, this is a great podcast. This is a 9-part podcast by Jad Abu Murad, who is the son of Dr. Abu Murad. And he begged his dad, Dad, please, 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 can you get me an interview with Dolly? Because I want to interview her for my special show that I'm creating. So it is a 9-part series. It's really fantastic. If you haven't had a chance to listen to it, I highly suggest that you take a moment and listen to it. There are 9 different podcast episodes. She does one about Jolene. She does one about, this one, Dolitics is really interesting. But she takes you into her world a little bit deeper, and you really get to hear some great conversations with Jad Abu Murad and Dolly. So if you've not had a chance, I highly recommend. Dolly is a national treasure. Yes, absolutely adore her. She doesn't let politics get in the way, but she helps support those people and those things that are happening in our world. And so listen to Dolly Parton's America. You can find it where most podcasts stream. So that was going on Wednesday. Then we had Thursday. Thursday was a little interesting because I started getting a lot of messages from folks asking me how my family was doing in Hawaii. New Zealand has experienced a series of very serious earthquakes. The last one, I believe, what is today? The 6th. I believe it was yesterday. They had an 8.1. Now they've had like 3 or 4. And of course, New Zealand is that part of that Pacific Ring of Fire area where there are lots of earthquakes happening. There were warnings that went out about a possible tsunami that would hit Hawaii. However, the way that the earthquake hit New Zealand, the ripple after effects went north and south. They did not go east and west. So while there was an initial warning put out about tsunamis for Hawaii, the danger passed and they did not. However, they are still warning people to prepare just in case there's another one. So to everyone who was sending me messages, to folks who did send me messages, thank you so much for asking about my family. Everyone is fine. They're doing great. I have been super busy working on projects, talking to some other potential clients about working on their projects. It has been crazy busy. Plus, I am in the launch team for John Acuff's new book called Soundtracks. And so right now he's doing a overcoming overthinking challenge, and that has taken place all this week. He's had some really great content. We've been able to spend, excuse me, we've been able to spend an hour with him in the Facebook group doing the challenge, overcoming overthinking. If you've ever been an overthinker, or I mean, I don't know about you, but I overthink everything, right? And so he's written a new book, which is coming out April the 6th, and I'm super excited about that. If you would like to be in my book club discussion group, we're going to talk about that book during the month of April. So you'll definitely want to join. But it's a great book. And we've been going through the content and doing the challenge with John. And then he has like a backstage pass where he gets on live with us and then answers questions, deals with one-on-one questions from all of us. So it's been really fantastic. So I've been working on that as well as preparing for tax time, right? As we always do. So great stories, great things. So many stories of things that are going on around us. So many stories that are probably happening in your life and in your world. What are some of the stories that have been going on in your communities, in your areas? How are people helping out? How are people handling the vaccination? You know, there's some states are doing it, others are not. Some states are keeping their mask mandates, others are not. Guys, that's why sometimes we can't have nice things. And especially if we've ever had to be in a war where our nation was at war, we're right now at war with each other in our own nation. So that's kind of scary, right? So one of your students once said, if it's worth thinking about, it's worth overthinking about. Hi, Terry. Great to see you, my friend. Yes. And yet, how many of you get absolutely, it paralyzes you? I mean, it paralyzes you from being able to do anything, right? So here's what the book's about. Let me show you there we go. So the surprising solution to overthinking. So it's called Soundtracks. And the reason why it's called Soundtracks is because John is discussing the soundtracks that play in our head when we are overthinking things. Could be about our business, could be about relationships, could be about our circumstances and us having to maybe jump from, you know, maybe you're one of the people whose jobs have been affected by the coronavirus problem. And so now you're having to, you know, pivot and regroup and figure out what to do. Oh, thank you, Bear. I appreciate that. You can't wait for your copy. I know. Listen, I can't wait either. It's going to be delivered to the house on April 6th. So you can't speak for your entire state, but you wear your mask. Right. And that's what we can do. That is how we are doing our part to help stop some of this from spreading. The paralysis of analysis plagues you daily. Well, then let me tell you, you want to get a copy of John's book. You can pre-order it now. And he's got this challenge that he's been doing in the group. It's a wonderful group. I mean, the interaction from people, the things that you get to see, and it's very helpful when you see other people who are struggling with the same problems and who are typing the very thing that you've probably thought in your head. I've run across so many people's posts who I was like, oh my God, I just said that to myself today. I'm in the right place. There are even people who are saying, is anybody else overthinking the fact that you're behind in the challenge? Because as John does the content, we can chime in and watch it and be a part of it live. He's been doing it over the lunch hour from 12 to 1. But some people, and especially like this week for me, has been super busy. I've not been able to catch all of the content live, but I've been able to go back. So I'm only on day like 2 of the homework. But, you know, that's okay. That's what John is talking about. So you definitely want to, and John's been one of my business mentors for quite a while. So I really appreciate the research that he's put into this book. He works with a PhD. They surveyed over 10,000 people and asked them, do you have a problem with overthinking? Do you ever have a problem with overthinking taking over your life and almost stopping you from doing things? And 99% of the people said absolutely. How about you? Do you feel like, oh, no problem, Kimberly. Thanks, my friend. Love you. Appreciate you being here. Right. Don't we all, Savannah? Yes. You waste so much time lost in your head. Right. And that's what John's talking about, is how we have soundtracks that play almost automatically, especially ones that have been programmed in our head to play whenever we face this, or whenever we come up against this, or whenever in a relationship with someone you deal with this. These are the soundtracks that, oh, you doing this again? Okay. And it starts playing in your head, telling you all of these things. And so what he's trying to do with this book is help you identify your broken soundtracks and replace them with ones that help you move forward. You're overthinking breakfast right now. I love that, Stephanie, especially when we have so many options, right? Are we going to have fruit? Are we going to have cereal? Do I just want a bagel? Do I want an omelet? Do I have time to make myself something? Does it need to be short? Maybe I have a power bar. Maybe I just eat a handful of nuts, right? I mean, guys, so we've got to rein all that stuff in. And so that's what John is talking about in his book Soundtrack. So definitely grab a copy, because I am going to be talking about and discussing this book in the month of April. And if you want to be in the book club to discuss it, especially those of you who are in the launch team and you have been reading the advanced copy, you can be so helpful in being a part of this discussion group. So definitely want to check that out. Oh no, Honey. You got COVID. You are resting at home, but your wife is in the hospital fighting for her life. We are going to send up prayers. So her name is Myra. Okay. Did I pronounce that right, Hone? Myra? Yes, absolutely. Take care of yourselves. You are in Brazil. So yes, listen, the disease is strong. Right. Oh, yes. Teresa says, sorry to hear this. We will definitely be praying for you both. It is strong, and that's why we have to continue. You got fever. Okay. Myra. Oh, okay. Myra. Okay. Well, we will definitely be lifting up you and your wife, Hone, and I'm so sorry that she is battling this. Guys, it's a scary thing. We have to be really careful. And so we definitely want to make sure we're lifting you up in our prayers. So thank you for sharing that with us, Hone. My name buddy, right? So soundtracks, definitely get a copy of the book. You'll want to check that out. There's some other books that I want to share with you today. New books that always get to come out, new stories that people are sharing. And so I'm really excited about some of these. I got to participate in the Dallas the Dallas Museum of Arts and Letters live lecture with Anne Lamott. She has a new book coming out called Dusk, Night, and Dawn on revival and courage. If you've ever been an Anne Lamott fan, one of my favorite books that she wrote back in the 90s is a touchstone for writers and authors called Bird by Bird. So this is her latest book come out. It's a collection of essays that deal with the final third of life. Anne Lamott recently married her soulmate at the age of 65. It's the first time she's been married. So she shares a lot of interesting essays about adjusting to that life. I mean, imagine being pretty much free and able to do whatever you want. And now she's in a marriage. Now she's in a relationship at this latter stage of her life. And so she shares a lot about that. She also shares about dread. So it's a collection of essays that she writes on different topics, dealing with what happens when we face those dusk and nighttime seasons of our life. What happens when we have to face those, and how do we face those well? So she's written a new book that shares a lot of her thoughts on revival and courage. And especially after the pandemic, we're seeing a lot of people who are facing questions about that. So this is a great book that you can, right. You had therapists who helped you with your soundtracks, but you're glad that a book is out there so that others can work on this on their own. Yes, absolutely. And books like this and Anne Lamott's book help us sort of work through the struggles that we have, right? And of course, the Word of God is a great, I mean, we can stand on that book, no question. We can stand on the Word of God and apply those principles in our lives and pray and speak those things over our life. But sometimes having a book written by someone who has walked through a similar situation as us and have gotten to the other side is very helpful. And so that's why these books are so important. So check out a copy of Anne Lamott's book, Dusk, Night, and Dawn. Really great, helpful essays that put some perspective on this stage of our life. Also, another great book that has come out, and if you are familiar with Jordan Peterson, he is a psychologist. He has written a fabulous book called The 12 Rules for Life. And so if you've ever read, it's called The 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos, where he talks about getting our life in order. Well, this is the companion book, just came out this week. It's called Beyond Order, 12 More Rules for Life, right? And what I appreciate about this book is it says the companion volume to 12 Rules for Life offers further guidance on the perilous path of modern life. So in the first book, he helped a lot of people sort of get their life in order, right? And kind of help rein in the chaos. Well, this book is 12 more life-saving principles for resisting the exhausting toll that our desire to order the world inevitably takes. And Anne Lamott's book deals with this too, is that we're trying so hard to gain control of our life, to gain, to grab the reins of it and steer it. And yet what we realize is that we don't really have control over life. We have control over the way we respond to life. So we can't control what's going on out there. And we know that, as God says, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. So he is in control. He is the one that reigns in life, but we only have control over our personal response to life. So this is the book. If you want to read more about how, and if you are a Jordan Peterson fan and you enjoyed the first book, definitely check out this second one called 12 More Rules for Life to teach us how to handle, because a lot of times when, and again, it goes back to overthinking, right? With John's book, is that we wear ourselves out trying so hard to rein all this in when really it's about controlling ourselves and the way we respond to these things. The Bible is sound, you agree. Verses are written in a way that we are to search and ponder, making interpretation from person and situation. Having a book specific is beneficial for being able to see and take hold of that information. Yes, absolutely, Teresa. I totally appreciate that. So again, a lot of these books and the recommendations I'm making to you are all ways that we can help understand our own experience and learn from others maybe who have had success in dealing with these things. And John has spent 2 years on researching his book. So definitely check out Jordan Peterson's book, Beyond Order. Now, if one of your ways to get away from stress and is you want to pick up a great fiction book, you want to have a fun new fiction read, well, I've got one for you. This one I think is going to be really interesting. I'm interested to start it. I probably won't start it until later with all the books that I have to read for work, plus the ones that I've got my to be read list in my Kindle and on my nightstand. But this is a great possible fun read, especially if you like fiction. So it is called KLARA and the Sun. And it is written by the Nobel Prize winner author, Sir Kazuo Ishiguro. Now, if you don't know him, you're not familiar with his work, you're thinking, gosh, how does he, wins the Nobel Prize? Well, if you have heard of the story, The Remains of the Day, if you've seen the movie, he wrote that book and won in 1989. Now, he also won what is called the Man Booker Prize, which is, he's received 4 nominations in the Man Booker Prize. And the Man Booker Prize is the UK's highest level of award for writers in literature. So he has written, now he was moved from Japan to Britain when he was 5 years old. So he was born in Nagasaki, Japan, and he moved to Britain in 1960 when he was 5. So his perception of his home country is only from what he has perceived, because he did not go back to his home country for 30 years. And his father was moved there to do some work. And so he and his family moved to Britain, and he ended up being raised, went to school, was educated in British universities. So when he's been interviewed, he has stated that the Japanese settings of his first 2 novels were imaginary. I grew up with a strong image in my head of this other country, a very important other country to which I had a strong emotional tie. But in England, I was all the time building up this picture in my head. So, but he has written this new story called KLARA and the Sun. And KLARA is a robot. She's AI. And she is set up in a store window, wanting to be picked, wanting to be loved. And she befriends a 14-year-old girl who is ill. And this whole story takes place and tells the story through KLARA's eyes, through a robot's perspective of life and dealing with human nature. So, KLARA and the Sun, a new fiction read. It'll be interesting to read about that and find out more about that. But yeah, great stories, great books, great ways that we can help understand our world and deal with the situations that are in them, right? So what a week this has been. The TBR shelf, the To Be Read shelf, is constantly growing. Yes, it is, but isn't it wonderful that we have so many great possible titles to read? And so, again, guys, I'm just sharing some ones that I've come across that I think might be interesting. Those that are in the VIP group, for me, you'll be getting links to these and information on how you can get them. I'll also drop links in the comments here so you guys can find out how to order these books. Check those out and check out some of your own, right? And remember, we're all in this together. We are all gathering together to learn more about our world, how we can help support each other. And I appreciate you supporting me by just being here on Saturday mornings to have coffee together, for us to chat about, and especially with Hone and his wife, Myra, to help pray over them. For those that are battling COVID, well, the guys, the fight's not over. We're still in this together globally. And we must do all that we can do to help others, right? Not just ourselves, to help others. So again, I appreciate you taking the time to be here. You love it. You're behind of your goal to read 1 nonfiction a month, but you plan to catch up this month. Stephanie, that's okay. Don't overthink it. Listen, it's totally okay. We're all doing that. We're all in the same place. And again, my broadcasts are here just to help sort of inspire you a little bit, give you some new possible titles to read. So you can always go back through my broadcasts and see the book recommendations that I make. You can find me on YouTube. And if you are watching me on YouTube, thank you to Stephanie and others. But you can go to my YouTube channel at youtube.com/Ronnie Harden to get all of the broadcasts in case you've missed some of them. And also, if you want to be on my VIP list, definitely drop me a note here. You can contact me at ronnieharden.com/contact and let me know how I can help you. And more importantly, if you have a story that you want to tell and you want to share with others, definitely let me know, because that's what I love to do the most, is help authors and writers become great at what they want to tell the world. sharing their content, whether it's in an article or an essay. Maybe you want to share a blog post. Maybe you want to get started on a blog and just start writing consistently so you get a handle on your words and get a sense for your own writing style and voice. Let me know how I can help you do that. All right. But in the meantime, guys, we're going to get out there and make this weekend fantastic. It's a beautiful day here in Dallas, Texas. I don't know what the weather is like where you are, but I hope it's just as great because it's springtime. It's time to plant flowers and gardens and get outside and exercise, right? But more importantly, we'll be back here together next Saturday where we will be discussing all kinds of things, and I'm going to be on the road. So, yep, from the editor's desk, we'll be live on the road next weekend. I am going to be heading out. Where am I going? Well, you'll have to tune in to find out. But hopefully you'll be back here next Saturday as I share coffee from the road and hit you up on some new books that are coming out, some new things that are happening. And I hope you'll share all of the new things that is going on in your world. Thank you so much for being here, guys. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. You've been enjoying your walks on the trail the past few days. Yes, the weather has been beautiful. I got out with a friend the other day and we walked for about a mile, a little over a mile before we had dinner together, and it was fantastic. So yes, take advantage of the beautiful weather while we've got it. It's been nice. You've got to take Gabe on a walk. Oh, good. Gabe is her little dog. Yes, and he had some surgery, so he's feeling better, and you got to take him on a walk. Listen, it's been so beautiful. Guys, get out there and do that. It's amazing what it'll do for your creativity and clearing your mind so that you can create great stuff. All right? Okay, guys, thanks so much for being here. As always, it's a pleasure. I'll see you back here next Saturday. We'll have more coffee, and we'll chat a bit, all right?